Hi everyone, my name is Cameron and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing a video that is a little bit different than like my normal vlogs, where I'm going to be ranking the annotations that I did in all of my books last year in junior year. Because I was looking for a new like curling wand for my hair, because I've never curled my hair with a wand before, and I saw someone who was like ranking their hair tools, and so I thought that may be kind of fun for me to do with my books that I annotate, because you can see I use like tabs and I'm a very thorough annotator. So I have quite a few books here, and so we are going to rank these in order of my favorite to my least favorite. So let's go. Okay, so first out of all 12 books that I have with me is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Now, this was my favorite book we read all of last year. This is probably one of my favorite books I've ever had to read for school. I just really enjoyed it. It got to the point really quickly, and so definitely do not be frightful of reading this. It was really good, but my annotations weren't as good as I wish they were. So you can see I went with a purple and like a yellow color scheme here, but like I didn't really write much on the sides, you know, and it's a little confusing because I seem to use like a weird mixture of the yellow and the purple, because typically the way that I do my annotations is I pick one color for like important quotes and one color for important important people, like when people are introduced. And I feel like I didn't really do that very well here. So this one's going to be placed, right now it's going to be placed at the bottom, but there will probably be other things below it. Okay, next up is Les Miserables. So I had to read this. This was one of my summer reading books. And instead of reading, I did decide to just watch the movie anyways. And then I went back on the SparkNotes and looked at like the 5 important quotes that it said on SparkNotes. And so I literally like outlined them with a pen and put a little sticky tab there. Like you can literally see I did nothing. Like if I go through this entire thing, you can barely even tell that I annotated anything. So this is definitely at the bottom because I didn't do anything. But hopefully this should be the only book that's like that, because this is the only book where I like didn't even try. Okay, next up is The Metamorphosis. So this book was really odd. I wasn't really a fan of the book necessarily, and I didn't do any tabs, but I do like my annotations on the inside. You can see I used a lot. You can see I wrote a lot on the sides, because we were also required to annotate for this, and you can see I kind of like did orange, then I went to a different color, and like you can tell that I really annotated this well, but it doesn't have the little stickies. So right now I'm gonna place it on the top, but it's probably going to be topped because there's no sticky notes. Okay, next up is Animal Farm. So I had to read this for my history class, and it was actually a good book. Obviously, it's why everyone has to read it, but obviously once again I didn't do any of those little annotations, and like I kind of wrote in there, but also we had to do chapter summaries, and so I wrote those on a separate piece of paper. So my actual in-book annotations are kind of not super great. So I'm gonna place this in between Frankenstein and Les Mis, because I think Frankenstein is better than my annotations in this, but Les Mis is definitely below my annotations in this. Okay, next up we have The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis. So I had an unpopular opinion about this book in my grade. A lot of people really liked it and were very like invested in it, and it just wasn't super interesting for me to read, and so the less interesting things are, the less I want to annotate them. So like you can see like I occasionally did this, and then this like more teal mint green was for my annotations in class, but I pretty much stopped annotating around probably 2/3 through the book. Like you can see I didn't annotate like anything. So this is gonna be between Animal Farm and Les Mis, because at least I did annotate something, versus in Les Mis I did literally nothing. Okay, next up we have Night, which this was actually a really good book. It's about the Holocaust, and we had to read it for my history class. And we did have to do a lot of there was a lot of annotations that we were required to do, but I do really like my annotations for this book. So I did pink for my personal annotations, and then I did yellow for my ones in class. And so you can see I did a lot. We also were required to do chapter summaries, and I have these little sticky notes. You can see they're obviously kind of falling apart, but that's okay because they're cheap. They're from AliExpress, but so I was able to do my little summaries on those sticky notes and put them down super easy. So I feel like I did a good amount of annotating in this one. So it's definitely not bad. So I'm gonna put it above Frankenstein and below Metamorphosis. Okay, next up, another C.S. Lewis book. You'll notice that this is a very common theme. My school loves C.S. Lewis. So this is Abolition of Man. My annotations weren't terrible on this one, but I once again kind of like, I didn't enjoy the book, and so I didn't really annotate it that much other than what I was kind of required to do for class. So I'm probably gonna put it on like the same level as The Great Divorce because I put essentially the same amount of effort into both of them, and that's pretty obvious to see. Okay, so next up is The Death of Ivan Ilyich. Now, this book was extremely boring, even though that's kind of the point of the whole book, is for it to be boring. However, I did annotate it pretty well because luckily it wasn't too long. So you can see I once again went with, this is what's weird, is on one of my other books, most of my highlights were in yellow and then I did purple tabs, and in this one, most of my highlights were purple and I did yellow tabs. So I'm not really sure what was going on there. Things are a little disjointed, but I didn't annotate it terribly. So I'm gonna put it below Night, but above Frankenstein. Okay, so this next book, like nothing competes with it. So this is Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, and I'm not a reader. I don't typically enjoy reading these books, and this was one of those books that I didn't really enjoy reading. However, I did annotate the crap out of it, you can see. And so I did blue and yellow. So you can see blue was typically, like, I think one of them was for in class. I think blue was for in class and yellow was for while I was at home. You can tell I did so much annotating in this book. And because we had to turn these in to our teacher for her to grade, because we're required to have certain annotations. And look how cute. She wrote, "A thing of beauty is a joy forever," which is a quote from one of the poets we had been reading. And it's so sweet because she thought that it was super pretty and she loved my annotations. So this one definitely takes first place. I don't think anything's gonna beat it. I love the annotations in this book. Okay, so next up, we have The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. This is actually a good book. I actually enjoyed this book, even though I was a little bit confused reading it because my reading comprehension has gone down the drain. But anyways, one thing that was super sad about this book was there was something weird like that happened in the third quarter where I sat my backpack down on the floor, as I always do, and for some reason the carpet was soaking wet and my entire backpack, like the bottom was soaked, and it ended up like, it got the corner of this book. You can see like there are certain annotations, like you can see it like bled off onto the paper and like it ruined some of my annotations, which is super sad. But I did a decent amount of annotations in this book. The color scheme's kind of all over the place, which is typically not my favorite. I try to keep it within the same realms and everything matching. So I'm gonna place this, I'll place it above The Death of Ivan Ilyich, but below Night. I think that's where this is gonna go. Okay guys, once again, another book that I barely annotated. So this is Sense and Sensibility. A lot of the girls in my class really liked this book. I did not, because clearly, as I'm sure you can tell, I need things to get to the point really quickly. And so like, I can't be in the latter half of the book and we're just now getting to the main plot. And that was kind of how this book was. So I didn't really annotate it much. Like you can see that I started off like girl bossing, like look at that. I was doing so good. And then you can watch as I slowly get to the point where I didn't annotate literally anything at all. Like I completely fell off and just like was done. So for the beginning of this, I am because the beginning is good, even though the latter half I did nothing on, I'm going to place it below Animal Farm, but above The Great Divorce and The Abolition of Man, because I did do some decent amount of annotating at the beginning at least. Okay, so this is going to be hard for me to rank because I don't know whether I want to put it on over Heart of Darkness or not, but this is Great Expectations. Yeah, this was also a summer reading book, so I was really nervous about, like, I needed to know everything, and so I annotated it. I used 3 different little colors. So the yellow was for introducing, see, I didn't use any highlighters, that's why I'm kind of like, I don't know what to do. So yellow is for introducing random things. Pink was for important quotes, and I don't really know what blue was for. Let's look. And blue was for like important surprise, like, oh my gosh. But you can see I only annotated with black pen, so I didn't use any color actually on the inside of the book. And so because of that, I don't know where to rank it, because Heart of Darkness, I didn't have as many of these little things. Like, I did have a lot, but I also highlighted a lot more on the inside. So I think my final decision is going to be that this is going to go below Heart of Darkness because I don't have many highlights, but it's going to go above Metamorphosis. Okay, so we finally finished ranking all 12 of them, and so now I'm going to go through my stack and tell you how the ranking truly ended up playing out. So first was Heart of Darkness because of the intense amount of annotations and because of the kind note from my teacher. Then book number 2 is Great Expectations because of how many different things I color coded, like all the different little sticky tabs that I used, but I didn't use highlighter, which is why I didn't get first. Because I just used pen. Third place is going to be the Metamorphosis because even though I didn't use little sticky tabs, I annotated so much in this entire book. Like, you can tell, like, I never stopped annotating an extreme amount, and so that's why this one took 3rd place even without those little sticky notes. 4th place is definitely Night because I did annotate a lot in there, and I did really good in the class discussion, and I got to use all these little sticky notes. 5th place goes to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, just because the color scheme was a little all over the place. But I feel like overall I did a good job with like the tabs and things like that. In 6th place, yes, is The Death of Ivan Ilyich, because once again, the color scheme's a little weird. I didn't write much on the sides, but I did do a good job of like highlighting and adding the little sticky notes. In 7th place is Frankenstein. This is the one where I did the yellow highlighting and the purple tabs. I think that I just, like, even though I really liked this book, you can see that the yellow is everything that I highlighted in class. So a lot of the work that I actually did was in class. And so I'm not gonna rank this super high, even though I absolutely love this book. So that's why this one gets 7th place. Next up is Animal Farm. Just because I kept it very minimal. I mean, I like highlighted and stuff, but you can see I didn't really write anything on the sides. And so because of that, gets 8th place. Next is Sense and Sensibility because I was really girl bossing at the beginning and then just completely dropped off. And I literally only used 2 sticky tabs and then I completely stopped. So that's why that's the place that it gets. And then even though there's 12 books, for 10th and 11th place, the 2 C.S. Lewis books are definitely tied because I put very, very minimal effort into it and really only highlighted and annotated what we discussed in class. So these 2 I did almost nothing in. And then in last place is definitely Les Mis because I sticky tabbed the important quotes from Spark Notes and then underlined them with pen. And that's literally all I did. I didn't crack open this book to actually look. Even whenever we reviewed it in class and like talked about important quotes, like I didn't go back and annotate it, and I don't know what was wrong with me there because I always go back and like highlight every single thing the teacher says, but I don't know why I didn't choose to do that on that one, but that's why that takes last place. Let me know if you want to hear more about kind of how I choose to annotate my books because I am doing a lot of summer reading right now. But I hope you enjoyed this video. You can clearly tell as we're getting closer and closer to back to school, I'm trying to show more of my system and how I do things because I'm very picky with how I do things. So if you want to see more videos like this or you have any other ideas of content you'd like to see from me, definitely comment down below, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.